issue for students. But I simply don't think that having a debt hanging over you is a good thing, and the more we can reduce it, the better. On further education, that's a product of the cuts agenda of this coalition government, supported by the Lib Dems throughout over the last 5 years.
And signed up to by you.
Yeah, no, the whole, what we've had is a whole austerity agenda. And people forget that after the Second World War, when this country was virtually bankrupt, we actually rebuilt the country and we built the NHS. Now, Labour will pay off the outstanding structural deficit, but we won't do it as swiftly and so ideologically as the Tories. The Tories actually want to reduce public services. They want to spend less money on health and on education. It is absolutely true. They want
as I'm not going to get the opportunity to
so they use this opportunity. And further education is an example of that. So is it right? No, it's not right. And we really ought to be expanding further education.
You want to
I just want to say that I'm married to a social worker. I care deeply about public services. I hear all the stories. You know, I use the NHS. I'm the governor of a school. I mean, and all the other Conservative candidates and MPs that I've met in South London cared passionately about public services. The only difference is how do you get the economy into a good position? We all want, actually, as politicians, I want to say as a non-party, we all actually want the same things. We want a healthy economy and we want world-class public services. We just have a different set of policies to achieve it than the Labour Party. But for you to just to say, you know, Tories, Lib Dems, you hate public services, you want to run the ground, what a load of rubbish. And it doesn't do public discourse any service making those kind of negative comments, because I think we just have to keep it honest.
Thank you. I'm going to close this question now. I'm sorry, there's plenty of other points, but I'd like to move us on to a theme that I think we've touched on, which is about employment prospects and wages and how the world is set for young people and their opportunities in the future. And I believe Julia has a question. Is that right, Julia? Julia, sorry, Julia.
It's alright. Okay, so this is my question. The national minimum wage for 18 to 20-year-olds is currently £5.13. For 16 to 17-year-olds, the minimum wage is currently £3.79. For apprenticeships, it is £2.73. Young people have rising education costs. Some have to live independently of their families, yet we remain one of the worst paid social groups in the country. How will the panel improve employment rights for young people?
Well, good question.
It's an excellent question. The minimum wage has just been, the announcement of the rise just happened last week. And actually, Vince Cable within the coalition fought very hard and succeeded in getting the apprenticeship minimum wage brought up as well. The other thing is that there's been a real battle. I mean, there are battles. So the Lib Dems and the Conservatives agree on certain things. I managed to sort of pull some ideas together. Came together at a time when we were paying £58 million, still are, debt, or just interest on the debt that we have, which is more than we spend on schools every year. So there was, I sort of reject the idea that any government that came in would have been able to sort of spend, like as if the sun was shining. It wasn't. We were in a really difficult position. And where I think we differ from the Conservatives is that actually we don't think that it's a drain on the economy to give employees those rights. So the George Osborne idea of trading your rights, some of your rights, for example, to not be fired quickly in order to have some shares in the company, that is just ideological stuff, which we blocked and we wouldn't let them do if we were in government again. So generally, I think that employment rights, and especially the benefits, so I'd be very interested in hearing what Sam's got to say about this, the benefits that the European Union have brought in terms of protecting citizens' rights and employers' rights like that. And we must continue to be not just an integral member of the European Union, but actually leading the way, becoming the country that's developing better and better employment situations for all age groups, actually, not just young people. I would just add one thing. You've seen in this Parliament the biggest rise in the number of apprenticeships ever, 1.8 million apprenticeships funded by the government under Vince Cable's watch in the Department for Business. What we're going to be saying that we'd like to do in the next Parliament, if we had a chance to put this into practice, is to make sure that we shift the focus now onto degree level apprenticeships, which ultimately, when people then leave them, will increase their earning power and will therefore obviously increase their the amount of money that they have in their pockets. When you add into the fact that we've cut income tax for low and middle earners by £825 over the course of this Parliament, you can start to see a package of measures that is putting the emphasis on people on low and middle wages, and I think that will disproportionately benefit younger people because by definition they start on those wages. One final thing. I think the next obvious point and the next sort of move on from apprenticeships is to really develop genuine national colleges of excellence. So the stuff that happens here every day, making sure that we're putting the money and the resources in the investment into the industries where Britain can be leading in the world, so that our young people are trained up in, the green economy, the creative sector, reinvigorating manufacturing. Those are the kind of things that the apprenticeship revolution that's happened in this Parliament can now feed into in the next Parliament. And it's a very good example of how you can spend public money in a way that will actually save money and benefit the economy in the long run.
Sarah, would you like to follow on?
First of all, can I just point out that by leaving the EU, it wouldn't affect anyone, in that sort of way.
Let's stay then. Let's stay then.
No.
Sorry.
What I mean is that 2,600 new laws have been introduced since 2010 by the EU. Now this restricts us, in so many ways, and you will find that, that by remaining in the EU, all around us, but from education to businesses, everything is being affected, to policing. It's not just students, it's across the board. So the way we see it is just by pulling out, we're saving the 55 million, which is around 12 billion per year. Now, that's a lot of money. That's it really.
Andrew, would you like to go?
Yeah, Labour will expand the minimum wage to £8 an hour, and I think appropriately we should expand the rates for youth workers and young workers as well. Labour will also promote the living wage as far as we can across the whole country. And Labour's looking for a massive expansion of apprenticeships. So for everyone who doesn't go to university, provided they achieve basic grades, there should be an apprenticeship, a properly based apprenticeship that enables them to come out of college and work effectively with a skill that they can trade off for most of their working lives. So these are very important. In terms of the EU, the EU is massively important for people's jobs and prosperity in this country. 300,000 British businesses trade in the EU. Millions of jobs in this country depend upon our EU membership. If we come out of the EU, the financial disadvantage to the British people will be tremendous. The idea that we can float off into the mid-Atlantic and close our borders and close our mines, it is fantastical, really. So we've got to keep our feet on the ground. The EU really does matter, but so do basic rights and things like the minimum wage. I believe in a regulated workplace. I don't believe in, for instance, preventing trade unions from acting on behalf of workers, which is clearly the trend and policy of the Conservative Party, trying to reduce the rights to take action, because at the end of the day, people have got to defend their rights and their rights in the workplace, and that may often require labour action in a traditional trade union setting, and we're not going to receive that if we get another Conservative government.
Thank you. Would you like to go next?
I hope you won't mind me firstly kind of just talking about my own personal experiences with employment and particularly finding work after graduating. So I was one of the luckier ones in that I did manage to find a full-time salaried job only a few months after graduating. You know, I'm eternally grateful for that because I've seen many of my friends and relatives go through much worse. But a job I was working when I came towards the end of my degree. It was locally in Kingston, and it was minimum wage, and it was on a 4-hour contract. So the company were able to say we weren't on a 0 hours contract, so they weren't doing anything wrong. We were guaranteed hours. But some weeks I would work my 4 hours, other weeks I would have my 30 to 40 hours and would be okay. But often I'd be running around begging my colleagues, can I take some of your shifts? Because I just wasn't going to make my rent. And even when I was working those 4 weeks, the minimum wage is shoddy, and it didn't cover living costs, especially in this area as well. So basically, the Green Party believes you should get fair pay for fair work. And if we're in a system at the moment where the minimum wage, national minimum wage, doesn't adequately cover basic living costs and your needs. So we believe that the minimum wage should be a living wage, and at the moment we're proposing that would be £10 an hour. By 2020. And what's really important to say with that is that there should be no age distinction. So when I was working on this minimum wage job, my partner was also working there with me, but he was older than me, he was 21. And I was 20, so I was on a lower wage. But I'll tell you now, our rent and our food and our bills and prescription costs and everything like that, it all costs exactly the same. So what reason was there for me to be earning less? So we think there should be no age distinction. And furthermore, we mentioned apprenticeship wages. That is a poverty wage. And the fact is, apprentices, although they're learning, they are bringing such a value to those places where they're working, and they're helping companies to make profit. So they too should be paid a fair living wage so that they're able to live. We also then need to look at the types of work that are available as well. So I've mentioned 0 hours contract. Young people especially are likely to be in precarious, unreliable work.